Hey everybody, we're going to start the class. This is Grandmaster Ben Feingold here at the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of Atlanta with our Wednesday night class. Today's topic is the 10 greatest chess moves of all time, which obviously is subjective. In fact, it's so subjective, I threw a couple of my moves in because, it's my lecture. Now, of course, you could probably have 1,000 different moves from different games that somebody would say are in the top 10. My goal this lecture was to not show you 10 positions you all know. That's probably pretty easy to do. I'm guessing most of you have seen 3 or 4 of the positions before, and maybe some of you have seen 0. And I would bet a lot of money that nobody's seen all 10. I picked some esoteric ones. These aren't in any particular order, but if you're watching on YouTube after the fact and you want to put them in order of 1 to 10 that you see fit, then you guys can argue in the chat, which I've never seen before in my life on YouTube, people arguing in the comment section, but it's possible. Right, Karen?
What, arguing in the comment section?
Yeah, and I've never seen it before, but this could be the first time.
It's a pastime.
That's right. Okay, so the first one, black is Jose Sanz. Usually you don't see the Agado, but okay. This was played in Spain in 1933. This is definitely one of the most 3 famous examples. So if you don't know this one, that means you're probably not going to know any of them. But okay, so black played the obvious, well, I thought he did, rook to d2, attacking the b pawn, and then black would be up several pawns. So white played the relatively obvious knight a4, defending his pawn, or so he thought. And before I show you the great moves, I want to give you some, what the last couple of moves are, if I can. Now, when somebody says the greatest moves of all time, normally what they mean is that the move is unexpected. So if I said this is one of the greatest moves of all time, and nobody's seen the position before, and everybody raises their hand at the same time and says this move, that's not unexpected. So I would say the greatest moves of all time aren't necessarily the greatest, they're just the most unexpected, and they're correct. When you make a very unexpected move, it's normally not correct. So when it is correct, that's shocking. Okay, and of course, we try to find reasons why these moves are good. This is an endgame, and in an endgame, the normal way to win is to promote a pawn. That's the normal way to win. And the pawn that's closest to promoting is this one on c4. This is a passed pawn, but it takes a long time to promote. And also, white wants to start taking all of black's pawns and so forth. So one of the greatest moves of all time, let's see if anybody in our live audience can guess. It's black's move. That's sort of a live audience. Somebody in my ear said rook takes b2, okay? And that move is definitely unexpected because white just defended, b2, and that was what was played. Now, in the game, white played knight takes b2. If white decides that knight takes b2 loses and he's going to play something else isn't good. Black is up 3 pawns, the a pawn is attacked, and I have a passed c4 pawn now. So if you don't take the rook, you're just going to lose like in a normal fashion, like you could resign, down so many pawns. So you might as well take the rook. Okay, and now c3 obviously, and black is threatening to take the knight, and there's no way to stop the pawn from promoting. Okay, now in this position, luckily for us, It's good to be lucky. White played the most interesting move. If white played a boring move, this wouldn't be so exciting. Okay, white played rook takes b6. That's very important to give this rook takes b2 some luster. If white plays the relatively obvious knight d3, which stops the c pawn from queening, we play c4 check. And if you take the bishop, we don't take the rook, we take the knight, and one of those pawns is going to queen. I don't know which one, because I don't know what move white's going to make, but one of them is going to promote. Okay, that would be sort of the boring variation. So luckily he played rook takes a bishop. Now, black has 3 obvious moves here, and they're all bad. Okay, we can just take the rook, and then knight here, and that white's up a piece. I guess black has drawing chances. Black has a lot of pawns, but okay. And you could take the knight, and then I take that, and black resigns. Or you could play c2, and then knight d3 is forced, and again, my knight can go to c1, so there's no problem. So technically, if we are to believe that people see what they're doing, which, I don't know, I guess I believe it. You don't have to believe it. You could believe, if you want to, that in this position, white overlooked rook takes b6. Okay? Or you can believe, like I do, that black saw rook takes b6 and had maybe even a better move than rook takes b2. And I don't know which move is better, so I like this one because there's 2 moves that are amazing. Rook takes b2 is amazing. You may argue this move is more amazing. I would argue it's explosive. c4, yeah. Yeah, the people in my ears like c4 better than rook b2. Now, what does c4 do? It stops knight d3. I guarantee it. Yeah, after c2, I play knight d3, and then you won't promote. The truth hurts. My knight can go to c1. And that's the point of c4, is you're stopping knight to d3, so if it's black's move, black just plays c2 and promotes. And if you play knight takes c4, I play c2 and I promote. So the truth hurts. So we're gonna all believe that black saw the move c4 when he played rook takes b2. That makes this more beautiful. The other possibility, which I will not believe, because then this is silly, is that after rook takes here, that black didn't see that, and luckily he had c4. But we're not going to believe that. We have a question from the audience. Yeah? Anyone? All right. Okay, so the audience says, what if rook c6? Now, we don't play c2, but we take the knight, now that the rook isn't on b6 anymore. So it all works out very lucky, except probably he wasn't lucky. Probably it was great. So let's go from the beginning. Now, the problem with these positions is you might go into the corner and start crying because you don't understand. If you did understand, and you understood quickly, these probably aren't the 10 greatest moves of all time. If I explain it and you still don't understand it, now those are great moves. Hard to understand things that are the greatest things that ever happened. So rook takes b2, and you could argue that c4 is even a better move, which I would argue. And hopefully, when black played rook takes b2, he saw c4. Otherwise, it's suspicious what he did. Yeah. Okay, and then, okay, so rook b4 was played. Okay? Now, if you take the knight, I take the pawn. And if you play c2, I go here. Now we have to argue whether black saw this when he played rook takes b2. Hopefully the answer is yes. If the answer is no, then, black got lucky. I think it's yes. Black only has one move that wins now. Anyone? A5 is correct. Yeah, as somebody in my ear said. Okay, now if rook takes, I take that and I queen. So that's good. If we move the knight anywhere, I don't know, here, then c2 wins and taking this wins. I don't know which wins more. And knight a4 is the same. We just take this and this pawn promotes. If we take this guy, you can't take the rook because knight here would block the c pawn, but now you play c2. This is actually the end of the game, was knight takes c2. You can't play rook c4 because your knight's there. So pawns aren't as bad as everybody said they were. Maybe Philidor was right. Okay. So after a5, I think he played knight c4, c2, and then white resigned. So that was amazing because black had to play 3 great moves. Rook b2, and then c4 is a great move, although my computer stopped working. All right, the computer said it's too difficult. Okay, good. It decided to work again. And then a5 is a great move. And if you don't play a5, you're losing. Chess is hard. Yeah. So yeah, the pawns beat the rook and the knight. Very suspicious. Okay, very good. That's one of the... there's 3 great moves. Which move is the greatest? I don't know, probably c4 because it's explosive. All right. Again, these are not in any particular order. You can decide what you like the best. Okay. In this position from the game Floor Geller. Now, this was at the end of Floor's career. Floor was a good player in the 20s and 30s, and this is 1949. So Floor was not young. And Geller was good in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. This was in 49, so Geller was young. So these guys were both top 15 in the world, but probably like 45 years apart. And they played when Geller was really young and Floor was really old. Okay? And if you thought that Floor was floored, wait until you're floored by this move. Okay, Geller played rook takes e4, and now black's up a pawn, and black's looking good. And white played king to d3. Okay, now black played a move you would never consider, and when I show it to you, you're not going to believe it. You're going to just walk out of the class, you're going to turn off your computer, and you're going to say, this guy's crazy. I don't want to watch his class anymore. Okay? Well, that rook e3 would be the kind of move where you would do that. Yeah, right, exactly. This move is crazier than rook e3. The difference is this move works. Rook e3 does not. And I remember this move from a long time ago, but it's been a while since I've seen it. Now, if it's white to move, which it's not, then white has no problem. White takes on e5, check, black plays rook takes, and white plays rook takes the pawn on a4, and it's a draw. But no problem. Also, white may consider taking this rook. So this looks like a draw. Looks like the game's over. It's a draw. Okay? And Geller played the winning move, confusing the audience. No matter how much hype I give this move, I didn't hype it enough. It's impossible to hype this move enough. It's not possible. There's nothing I can do. E takes F, that's not a hype move. That's well. You guys are just suggesting crazy moves in my ears. It's a good thing you guys can't hear them. All right, now get ready when I show the move to just leave the class and be like, this class is stupid. Are you ready? Kira's gonna wake up after this move. Okay, are you ready? You sure you're ready? Okay. King G7. The pawn capture is not check. That's correct. And we need actually to protect our king side in case white plays h5, which he did. We got to make sure our pawns are protected. That's why king g7 is better than moving the king the other way. This protects the g6 pawn. And you'll be like, what? You'll see later. Now, you can't move the f pawn because if rook takes rook. Now, when my king was on f6, you could play f takes e5 check. And if you play king takes rook, that guy's hard to stop. Very hard to stop. Yeah. And so on. King g7, just what you guys were thinking of. Okay, so white played h5, and black's like, yeah, I'll make a queen. And then takes. Now, if black loses all of his pawns, a lot of those rook and 2 versus queen are draws. A lot of them. So I think like if black's king was on e7 or e6 here, it'd be a draw. But king on g7 protects that pawn. He figured that out when he played king g7, just like you guys did. Also, imagine if the king was on f7, that you could take with check, that could be riskier. There could be like a rook f4 check, rook f1. So g7 is the best. Yeah. And then the game went on another like 15 moves, but black won. All right. But I think king g7 is the only move that wins. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. Even if you had this position today, you wouldn't play king g7. You're like, I don't believe that guy. Right. Now, let's play a normal move. Somebody suggested a3. Okay. Now I take with check, so you have to take with a rook, because you don't want to lose your rook. And then I go here. That pawn's hard to save. So that's just a draw. So yeah, king g7, amazing. Nobody can understand it. All right, but we have more positions to look at. Wait, I pushed f11. There we go. Okay. Now on chess.com, they had the people who work at chess.com, if you can call them people, if you can call that working, all vote on the 10 greatest moves of all time, and they claimed this was unanimous #2. And I must admit, I haven't seen this, and I know the guy who's white. It says 1949, but it should say like 2000 something. Wrong year. Okay. And I thought I knew all the crazy moves, but I didn't know this one. So I'm glad. So material's equal, but obviously white has a really dominating position. Right. White could play rook e8, and then you would lose the 2 rooks for the queen. Right. That's one way of playing. Yeah. And then it's 2 rooks for a queen. All right. That's, okay. It's not too good. All right. White played a move so good that you have to sign a release saying that if you get sick, that you can't sue us. Right, Karen? Yeah. Now, if you thought king g7 was shocking, now you're going to see a shocking move. Are you old enough to watch? How old are you? Now, you guys are like, man, Ben's acting really silly. There's no shocking move here. 9? All right, then you close your eyes, because this will be shocking for you. White played, are you sitting down? Queen c7. Yeah, but there's 3 pieces. Yeah, there's 3 pieces that can take the queen. Now, obviously, if these 2 pieces aren't here, rook e8 is going to be mate, because I said so, right? So if queen takes, or rook takes, rook e8 is going to be mate next move. We got 2 rooks, 1 for each of you. Now you may be wondering, well, why not take with this rook? Then I still got this action going on. But your rook on d7 was defending d5, and now it's not. In fact, I think it's better to take this first. And by think, I mean, it definitely is. Yeah, right. And then you can stave off mate for a couple of moves. Yeah. And after queen c7, black resigned. And the idea of queen c7, which we're going to see in later positions in this class, is removing the guard. The queen and the rook are guarding e8, and the queen and the rook are guarding d5, and queen c7 says, all right, we're going to get rid of some of your guard. And then white said, on guard. So, yeah. Queen c7, that wasn't considered the best move by anybody in chess.com. That was number 2. Okay, number 1's really famous. You all know it. When I say you all know it, like less than half of you know it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The gawking rebel has spoken. All right. Okay, this is the most famous example. It's Topolov Shirov. This is going to take some splaining. Okay, so we've called in Lucille Ball, even though she's not alive, and she's going to explain it. Anyone? No? All right. Okay, so black is 2 pawns up because I said so. Okay, and black has 2 passed pawns. Also good. But it's opposite colored bishops, so it's hard to win. And Shirov believed, and most grandmasters today agree, the computer's still confused, by the way. Computer's like, I don't know, leave me alone. Okay, that if white activates his king and gets it to a normal square, like e3 or d4, that black is not winning, because those pawns are blocked and there's no way to win. And Shirov believed that also, and probably he's right. Probably if my king gets to a good square, there's just no way for black to break on through, as Jim Morrison said. And somebody in my ears, before I set the position up, already said the winning move, which is, on the flyer. See? No. Okay, and this is a very famous move. It's bishop h3. If you haven't seen it before, it's very confusing. If you have seen it before, it's also very confusing. Okay, the point of bishop to h3 is to gain a tempo to stop white's king from getting to e3, so our king can get to e4, then we can start pushing our pawns and queening them. Remember, in the endgame, it's good to queen your pawns. It's good, okay? I asked Martha Stewart, she said it's a good thing to queen your pawns. Now, white could ignore the bishop and say, well, Grandmaster Feingold said if my king gets here, I draw. That's true, except bishop h3 threatens the g pawn. Now, down 2 pawns, maybe you can draw, not down 3 passed pawns. Then you're not going to draw. So if I take this pawn for free, even if your king gets to a good square, you're not going to draw against 3 passed pawns on all sides of the board. That's not going to work. So more or less, white is forced to take the bishop. And if you don't take the bishop, then what's wrong with bishop h3? Great. Okay. Now it's black's turn to move. And the thing is, black wants to play king f5, but it's illegal. If black moves the bishop, white plays king f2, king e3, and stops black's king from getting to here. For example. And then this pawn can't move, this pawn can't promote, this pawn's attacked, and most grandmasters think this position is a draw. However, this move should win. Now our king gets to e4. We actually don't care about the f pawn. Because if you take the f pawn and I play d4, I'm blocking your bishop. So I got all these passed pawns that are queening. These pawns are not queening. Okay, and if white doesn't take the pawn, then black has his 3 passed pawns again. And this bishop on c3 has to babysit this pawn, and this king isn't going to stop my king in 2 pawns. It ain't going to happen. So Topolov took on f6 because 3 passed pawns is tough to deal with. d4, now Shirov wants to do that. That's pretty good. So he said, no, you can't do that. And then king d3 is a very important move. Black wants to play king c2, and then he escorts his pawns in. Bishop c5, stopping king c2, because we're on the pawn. So king c4. And then king b3. And the idea isn't to go here. The idea is to go here and escort our pawn in. And you can't stop it. I'm going to play king c2. I'm going to push my pawns. And your bishop can't take both pawns. It can only take one. And here white resigned. If white doesn't resign and plays, I don't know, here, I go here. And again, you can stop one of my pawns, but you can't stop them both. If you take this pawn, you can't stop that one. So bishop h3, pretty good move. The bishop doesn't matter. It's the passed pawns that matter. And even though white didn't give up his g pawn, he sort of did, because now black has the passed f pawn. So now, if you don't take that f pawn, 3 passed pawns on all sides of the board, that bishop on c3 is not going to be able. So that's why he took this one. He figured 2 passed pawns, maybe I can stop, but he was wrong. Yeah, these pawns don't really help white. Yeah. So whenever I play bishop h3 in a blitz game or a bullet game on the internet, and I'm streaming, I always say even better than Shirov's bishop h3, but it never is. But if I say it enough times, people will believe me, right? That election was stolen from me. All right. So bishop h3 is probably the most famous move in our, here. Okay, now, reading is not my specialty. I don't like reading. I'm against it, okay? So remember that when your parents ask you, what did you learn from Ben Feingold's lecture? Tell them Ben said don't read. Wait, don't say that. Okay. Now, in the list of the 10 greatest moves ever, which for the most part I ignored, somebody wrote a comment and said, what about this game? Rawr. Okay, this was a correspondence game, which nobody understands unless you're over the age of 50. Then you still don't understand it. When you play correspondence chess now, you use a laptop or a desktop. Okay, when you play correspondence chess in the 1970s, this game was played in 1973, you took a postcard, you wrote down your move, and you mailed it to the guy, and he looked at the postcard and made the move, and the games took over a year. Especially if they were international games. Then you play like 1 move a month, okay? That's the most fun you can have. However, in the 1970s, people didn't use 27 engines to find their moves for them because they didn't have engines. They had to find the moves in their own brain. Terrible, okay? This was one such game. This was played in like the US or the World Correspondence Championship in 1973. Now, white is Howard Wachtel, who is 2,300 at chess, and he's also a very good backgammon player, better at backgammon than chess. World famous backgammon player. And you'll notice in this position, black is getting checkmated, but white's going to lose his queen. Okay, even with that drunken, arrow there. Yeah. Okay, so white played rook h7 check, and black made the best move. Even without computers, black found the right move here. Right? There's only one legal move here. Yeah. So a guy wrote in and he said, this is the greatest move ever, not those other ones that you showed. Okay, this move would be really good if white saw it in advance and it was a tournament game. Since it's a correspondence game where you can think days about your move, it's good. It's not a move that you would consider necessarily, and I think it's the only winning move for white. And what I like about it is if white doesn't play the winning move, then white's losing. That's what I like. White's going to lose his queen. Okay, and if I may I? White's down a piece. So white's down a piece, and he's losing his queen for sure. So that's bad. But white played a brilliant move, and the game ended. Amazing move. Can anybody find it? Nobody knows this game except me. I don't even know the game. That's correct. Our 9-year-old solved it. What are you old guys doing here? Terrible.
Thank you.
Right, rook to e8 check. Now, what is the idea? The idea is this rook is defending the knight, but not if you take it. Then it's not. Right? Okay. Well, you can't play knight e7 because it's illegal. So you have two legal moves. King here to d6 or rook takes rook. If king d6, I take this with check, and then, if you go here, this is checkmate. So, and if you go here, I check, and then I might have mate, but I don't really need mate to win. Probably have mate. Bishop e4 wins. But, yeah, I might have mate somewhere. Nobody knows. I do know bishop e4 wins. Yeah. Okay. You have a mate. Terrible. Yeah. No, you can't. Your queen's pinned to your king. Yeah. Yeah, you got to watch your queen. Okay, so obviously rook takes makes more sense. Then bishop takes, there's one legal move. Then bishop e4 check, there's one legal move. Do you see what it is? Anybody? King e6 and then checkmate. Yeah. If you don't like that, you're against it, then checkmate. If you don't like that, checkmate. All right. Sorry. Yeah. So rook e8 check winning, which obviously he had to see beforehand. And again, this is a removing the defender. And, when it's check, that makes it easier to find. But the point of the story is not what you think it is. You think, wow, that's a good move. The point of the story is you have to see that beforehand. You can't just luck into it. A lot of lower rated players, when they make the winning move in their tournament game, they didn't see it in advance and they're like, hey, that wins. Cool. But if you're Grandmaster and Correspondence Grandmaster, you can't just play losing variations and go, darn, oh wait, I could win. That's not what's going on. What's going on is the guy figured it out before, and even though he's down material and losing his queen, he knew that this would win. Pretty cool move. Pretty good. So go Howard Wachtel. Keep playing backgammon. Okay. All right. And this one I've never seen before, but I've seen the idea. I can't flip the board. I can't do anything. Thanks, ChessBase. Sometimes ChessBase doesn't work, like when I'm using it. Yeah. All right. So this is a game where Bronstein was black in the 1965 Soviet Championship. And this looks like the boring world of Niels Bohr. This looks like I've never seen such a boring position. Can't you show me something interesting? Okay. So Bronstein played queen e5 because he had some back rank ideas. Okay, although to be perfectly frank, if I played queen here check now, queen f1 would save the day. On the other hand, queen takes b2 looks pretty good. Okay, now these pawns are doubled and isolated and weak, and this pawn is hanging, so white played the sort of obvious move, rook b4. He's defending his pawn, he's attacking these pawns, etc. And he knows if queen e1 check, he can play queen f1. And probably, if I was shown this position without knowing it, and somebody said, whose position do you like? I'd probably take white. White has a passed pawn, and these are doubled isolated pawns. But since this is the greatest moves of all time lecture, black made a move and white resigned. All right, somebody liked black and somebody said the winning move. Man, somebody's got their engine going. No, they would never do that. All right. A lot of people yell the right move when somebody else does, especially when it's the most exciting move. Luckily, you guys can't hear it.
Is it rook takes a3?
Rook takes a3 is correct. That's what Karen wanted to play. Right, and there's three ways to take the rook. With the rook, the pawn, or the queen. And these kind of creative moves, rook takes a3, that's why Bronstein was considered a creative player. So if you take with the rook, then queen e1 is going to be mate. If you take with the pawn, I play queen takes a1. Oh, wait. Yeah. And then if you play rook b1 or queen b1, then I have rook e1 check. The truth hurts. Defending by x-ray. Confusing the audience. Some of the audience, anyway. Yeah. And if you take with the, queen? Did I say queen yet? Yeah, then this is going to be mate. Now, on the other hand, you might say, well, just don't take the rook. Well, my rook is threatening this and this. So, and there's back rank issues if you lose that. So, rook takes a3, resigns. And chess can turn that quickly. Moves that are unexpected because they're defended 3 times, when you see a lecture like this, it's to be expected. If you're playing your own tournament game, you're not looking at rook takes a3. If you're white, you're like, well, defended 3 times. But it does teach you a lesson, which you're going to forget in about 4 seconds, which is it's good to have luft. It's not good when your king's getting mated on the back rank. If white had played h3 or g3 earlier, that wouldn't work. And as my dad used to say, make luft, not war. Confusing half the audience. What? No, I don't want to save it. Go away. Okay. Now, this is not listed anywhere as a top 10 move, but I remember it from when I was a kid. So that's good enough, right? Okay. Now in this position, the queen is attacked and white's down a piece, so queen takes c3. That's not the top 10 move. Okay. And black played c6 because his c-pawn's hanging. So there you go. Now, according to the internets, and they would never lie, this position has occurred twice in Grandmaster play before this game from the 1974 US Championship. Walter Brown's white, Arthur Bisgeyer's black. This is the only game Bisgeyer lost. Okay? If you're going to lose, it should be because of this. That's why you should lose. And in fact, he lost a rook and pawn ending even after this brilliant move. In the previous 2 games where this position occurred, black actually won both of them. In this position, Walter Brown thought for 45 minutes, which you guys do often. Okay? And he played the move that you were going to play, except for one thing. And I remember this when I was a kid, because this is in 1974. So I was 5 years old when this happened. And when I was 6, 7, or 8, I read about it. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to show that when I'm an old man. Okay, and white played very similar to Shirov, but 40 years before. Bishop h6. Bishop h6 threatens bishop takes g7. Exactly. What about pawn takes bishop? Bisgeier played rook g8 as you expected, except you didn't expect that. After pawn takes, we play rook e5. Now we've opened this diagonal to the rook, which is going to matter. You want to defend your bishop and your other bishop, but I play rook here, attacking your other bishop. In the game where black played rook g8, black played bishop e6 here, which makes a lot of sense. You're saving your bishop. Now I can play d5 because your rook is there. And if you take, for example, then I take this. Right. Yeah, you can't take with the queen, but yeah, you take this. Yeah. And this is very, very bad for black. Yeah. Right, still very bad. Yeah. But he thought 45 minutes about this move, and a lot of people said this position's occurred before, so bishop h6 was his home preparation. Now, he didn't know this position, and he thought 45 minutes about that. So, no. He said, no. And the game actually got to a rook and pawn ending where white was winning very slowly. Except I'm using chess space, so I can't do anything. Rook g8, bishop e6, as said earlier. And they traded everything, but it was very bad for black. You can see black's pawns aren't very good. So brown won a very long rook ending with his kingside pawns because black's queenside pawns weren't becoming a queen, but white's kingside pawns were. And this was the only game Bisgeier lost. He still defended really well, but too late. But yeah, bishop h6, obviously in the very unexpected category. And white wants to play rook e5, rook e1, but bishop h6 gains a tempo because it threatens this. And if you take it, it opens up this diagonal. If you play a random move like bishop d2, which has been played before, white doesn't threaten anything, so black has time to consolidate, and eventually black's going to be better because white has an isolated pawn and black has the two bishops, what else? So bishop h6 keeps black's king in the center, makes a threat, try to double the rooks. Go Walter Brown. Walter Brown was good for about 40 years. Also a good poker player. And I played Walter Brown many times. Man, I think I played Bisgeier twice. Brown I've played at least 6 times. Okay, now we're going to get to the worst part of the lecture, but that's okay. If you're watching on YouTube, you're already watching something else. You're like, all right, I had enough of this lecture. And the reason it's the worst part is I threw a couple of my games in because it's my lecture. Okay, now, I was giving a chess camp in Las Vegas before you guys were born. I mean, the 9-year-old anyway. And when I showed this, after the camp, the guy said, that was the greatest move that's ever been played. And I said, I know it. Okay, so I took, and he played bishop g5. And I've lectured about this several times, but most of you were, like asleep when I was lecturing, so you forgot. Exactly. Yeah, trading bishops on g5 is not the greatest move ever played. It's just trading bishops. I played a move you would never think of. Unless you've seen this, then you'll be like, oh, I saw that before. Yeah. Knight c4 is actually not a bad move. Not bad. But it's not as exciting as my move. My move's more exciting. Knight c4 is not a bad move, actually. But this move is harder to find. Knight to d3. Confusing the audience.
No, I get it.
And the queen. Oh. Yeah. That's because I'm crazy like Fox News. All right. Now, in the game, my opponent played the obvious move. King f1, which I expected. Exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the 3 ways of capturing the knight. The simplest is queen takes, bishop takes bishop. Now black has an excellent position because here comes my knight and dark squares and 2 bishops and other things you guys don't understand. Okay, pawn takes is the simplest to refute. Anybody? It's the simplest.
Bishop b4.
Bishop to b4. Yeah. See, now if I had played bishop b4 in this position, my opponent would play c3 and I would be PO'd. I need a smarter audience. Okay, so after knight d3, if he takes with the pawn, there's no more c3. Okay, now, heretofore in this game, which you didn't see, is if you had seen this game earlier, you would be thinking, man, your queen's stupid and you're stupid and everybody's stupid. Okay, most of that's right, by the way. But now, if he takes with the bishop, my queen is less stupid. Queen e5 check. Ha-ha, I showed him. Yeah. Right. So he played king f1, which I think is the best move. And the purpose of knight d3, other than all those tactics, was now he can't castle. Hooray. Right. And the game went like this, and eventually I won because boo and weak pawns and so forth. And the engine says knight d3 is the best or the second best move. But the important thing is it's a move you wouldn't really consider. And I only considered it because I was like, man, this almost wins a queen, but c3. How can I do something about that? And then luckily I found that so I could show it for years because that's a pretty cool move. All right, now my favorite game I've ever played has one of my favorite moves I ever played. And there's a family connection. Okay, not the mafia, well, maybe. Okay, and we'll flip the board because that's what we do. Okay, as you can see, white has a nice attack. Exactly. Now, it's white to move, but white's down 2 pieces. I hate when that happens. I hate when that happens. Now, okay, our 9-year-old gives a variation. What's that? Yeah. Right. Now, most of that was correct. The young person in the audience sees tactics better than you guys because you're all old and stuff. Terrible. And he suggested this variation, which I've had suggested more than once. Checkmate. Okay. Problem with that variation is, in this position, white's down a lot of material. So black can play bishop to g6, bishop to g5 here, and then just give his queen away. And I'm not sure who's better here. Probably white's better, but I'm not sure. Because it's 2 rooks for a knight for a queen. It'll probably take white. A lot of pawns. Yeah. Okay, now, black's last move was queen to d8, stopping rook h4 check, right? Well, I don't have to play rook h4 check. I could play rook here, rook here, rook here, rook here. Those would be good. So I played rook f3, threatening rook h3, winning immediately. Hooray for Ben. Okay, my opponent, who is a Grandmaster, played f4, blocking my rook. So now if I play rook h3, then bishop h4. All right, so now I played maybe my greatest move ever, unless you like knight g3 better, I don't know. Now the reason I like this move is I was playing in an open tournament with a lot of good players, and at this particular point in the game, my son, Spencer, walked by the board to watch, and then I played this move. And then when I played it, I looked at him and I said, who's your daddy? Yeah. And then my opponent said, I guess you are. And I said, no, I was talking to my son. Somebody in the audience got the right move. And this is the ultimate, for me, removing the guard. Not as good as Meyer's queen c7, but okay. Rook takes d6, confusing the audience. Notice the queen and the bishop are defending h4, which makes rook h3 not checkmate. However, if you take my rook, then rook h3 is going to be checkmate. If you don't take my rook, I can win your queen, which is good. I like winning queens. And when I was playing the game, I thought rook c6 was the best move, and the engine says rook c6 is the best move, then it says I'm plus 25. So his position is not very good. Okay, he played bishop h4, and I missed a very simple mate for a more complicated mate. The simple mate is just easy checks, easy checks. And then in this position, I didn't see the queen on this diagonal. Now, I didn't see this or this. I only saw, which are just mate, I only saw queen e6, and then after bishop e7, I gave up. I give up easy. And I was like, I don't know. So instead of that simple mate with queen g6, I played a more fun mate, because you got to have fun in life. The engine says queen f6 is the best move. When queen f6 is the best move, you're in trouble. Usually when a guy takes your queen with double check, that's not a good move. So, okay, he played king e7, I checked, and then he resigned. He has one legal move, and I was gonna play this checkmate, because I thought it was pretty cool. And the other checkmate is rook d4, and he has no legal king moves. So he has to give away his knight, and then that's mate. So after queen e5, he resigned. But I really enjoyed playing rook takes d6. Now, you could put any move you want on the 10 greatest moves ever, but since I was the lecturer, somehow 2 of my moves snuck in. It was weird. It shouldn't sneak in like that. But I like those moves. And there's a lot of moves that you could put in the 10 greatest of all time. And in fact, one of the moves I don't remember looking at, but I remember having it. So let me see what I did wrong. Yeah, what's going on here? Hold on a second. Yeah, I somehow, this move got skipped, but I'm not sure how exactly. It would have been the 9 greatest moves ever. How did this move get skipped? All right, I don't know. Anyway, here it is. Okay, this is Bronstein Spass, I'm sorry, not Bronstein. This is Larson Spassky, Soviet Union versus rest of the world match. Black played H takes G3. Now the rooks are opposing. Stop making moves without me telling you to. Ah, I hate chess base. I mean, chess base is great. Okay, so this position, white doesn't want to trade rooks and then take the quote on, whoa, what's happening? It has a mind of its own. I like that. What?
That's strange.
Go chess base. Okay, let's flip the board twice. Maybe that'll trick it. I doubt it. Yeah, okay, takes. Oh, it's doing it again. All right, I can't show any variations because it won't let me. I like that. But anyway, that's terrible because black's gonna play rook h1 check and it's over. So he played here. Now, one of the reasons I like this game is I like this game. But the other reason is I was showing this to a student who actually showed up here unexpectedly about 3 weeks ago because he's going to school here. If you remember those people who showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this was like 8 years ago, I showed him this position. And he was, I don't know, 1700. Now he's 2000. And I said, what move did Spassky play here? And he tried and he failed miserably. The lesson is never try. Then I helped him. I said, all right, it's a rook move. This rook. Man, I can't do anything. And he suggested every legal rook move. And I said, no. He says, well, there's one thing I know for sure. He said, it's not rook h1. And I said, yeah, that's it. The only move he guaranteed it wasn't, that's the move that it was. So that's a pretty good move. Okay, that forces the rook away from the g pawn. So when you take the rook, I have g2. And you don't want me to play g takes rook check or g1 queen. White played an unusual move that will confuse you, played rook f1. But if he plays rook g1, which I'm assuming won't let me play, it did. No, it didn't, yeah. All right, we're gonna leave, and then we're gonna come back, because I'm sure that'll fix it, except for one thing. All right, let's see if that helps. Yeah, I think it helped. Okay. All right, if rook g1, I check, and then I play queen h1. And white's doing really well, except, right, white's not doing very well. Yeah, he said it was obvious, yeah. Okay, so Larson played rook f1, queen, and then he resigned, and he has a good reason to resign. If you take it, I play this move. No. Yeah, what he said. Yeah, if king here, then black's better. And then some. And funnier is bishop e2, checkmate. I thought it was funnier. Yeah. So rook h1 is a really cool move for several reasons. One is my student said any move but that. And the other is this was like the Soviet Union versus the rest of the world match. And these were two of the best players in the world. Usually black doesn't win in 17 moves by destroying white. Not usually, sometimes. And here's the funny thing that you didn't know, even if you know this game, which you should, is Larson on board 1 ahead of Fischer actually did well. This was the game he lost. He also had 2 wins and a draw. But the famous game is the one he lost, and the truth hurts. So as you all know, when the match happened, Larson said, I'm board 1 ahead of Fischer. Rawr. And Fischer said, okay. The only thing crazier than Larson asking to play board 1 is Fischer agreeing. That's even crazier. And Larson actually had a good score, but not this game. This game didn't do well, but it's just one game. Larson and Fischer did well. The other 8 players I forgot. Because Go, Portish, and Hort. Yeah.
I'm confused.
Yeah. You.
What do you mean asked to play board 1?
He said, I want to play board 1, and Fischer said, okay. It was a team match.
Oh, it's
The Soviet Union versus everybody in the world.
I got it.
Right. And so, yeah, as was pointed out in my ears, Portish and who? What? Who? Hort, yeah, Portish and Hort. Now, as Karen knows, Vlastimil Hort was one of the top 10 players in the world, and he's still alive, and he likes pea soup. True story. And also one of the funniest. But as you know, which friend of ours beat him with the black pieces when Hort was like top 20 in the world?
Friend of ours?
Yeah. We're going to see him in 2 weeks. We're going to stay at his place.
Oh, Wes?
Wes crushed Hort with black.
Really?
Right. We have a friend who was 2,300 before you guys were born. Way before you guys were born. Way before you guys were born. And for some reason, he beat Hort and Florin Georgiou when Georgiou was top 20 in the world, like when they were good. Yeah, now if Wes comes to our chess club, he loses to 1400s in blitz. Because, he's 80, but truth hurts. Yeah, Wes had some good results. Wes lost to, like, Kieres in the last round of the K Open for first place. Yeah, what's Wes doing? Hey, somebody's in the waiting room, wants to come in. I think they're an hour off and they're, yeah. All right, so thanks for watching the lecture. The 10 greatest moves of all time. Obviously, you could argue, I don't like that move, and what about my move? And, what about when Michael Jordan did the fadeaway? That was a great move. I don't know. Thanks to our sponsor, me and Karen. Go, Karen. Thanks to everybody who watched. Please click for more videos on YouTube. Like and subscribe. And thanks for enjoying the video. This is Grandmaster Ben Feingold for the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of Atlanta. I want to thank the participation. We actually had more participation from the people than we usually do. Usually you guys are quieter than, I don't know, Mary Tyler Moore. All right, See you next time. Bye.